Hey guys, I'm still working on Louisville guns, and I've got some guns to show you that I think will be very educational, and that seems to be your favorite videos. At least the comments say, I love the educational aspect of your videos. All right, so here we go. Now don't get scared because I'm going to show you some guns that are going to scare you a little bit. They look right, but they're not quite right, and sometimes people get fooled. So that's why it's important that you have people in your life that you can ask or go to a book and make sure you check out a gun, especially a high-end gun. So I have some very cool guns, some that are not quite right, and we're going to go over some of the cautions that will be helpful when you decide to buy. Come take a closer look. Okay, I have a few World War II era German pistols. Actually, one's Belgian, but we're going to go through these in order. And we're going to start with these two first because they're near identical other than the finish. You obviously can see this is a nickel finish. It's starting to flake a little bit right here. Also, this looks a little bit filled in, not too bad. And of course, people try to talk themselves into these nickeled guns. It's very rare to find a factory nickeled gun, and it's also very hard to prove. And so one of my favorite phrases, and I heard it a lot at the Louisville show, because when I meet people in public, they say, isn't it possible that they could have, whenever you start a sentence with, isn't it possible? Absolutely. There's a lot of things that are possible, but it's not very probable. So, like, for example, a nickel-plated, this is an SS gun. By serial number, we know it's an SS contract gun, and the serial number is on the slide frame, and it also has a matching mag. Now, if somebody buys this, they want to talk themselves into this was a special presentation gun. But here's the truth. If you're in the Secret Service or if you're in the military and you have a carry piece, you don't want it to be shiny and glowing in the dark, especially if you're in clandestine services such as the SS. So I don't think it's possible that this could be factory nickel, but some people will try to talk themselves into it by saying, well, isn't it possible? And then they'll say, what about General Patton? He had a nickel-plated Smith & Wesson. Maybe it's chrome, I don't know. People always correct me on that. Anyway, he had a bright, shiny gun, revolver, Smith & Wesson that he carried during the war. And isn't it possible that if you're a general, you could get a special order? I wasn't in the factory when this is made, but I'm not going for isn't it possible. I'm going for this is a nickeled gun. Because I like to say if it's not in the book, meaning they have a group of guns that were made in a certain time and there's a whole block of them, and that is true for the Walther factory. You will find nickel-plated guns, especially PPKs in the 417,000 range comes right to my mind. Those guns are all nickel-plated guns at the end of the war. Some kind of a presentation. This is not factory nickel. But it is an SS gun. Now, at the show, I did see SS guns going for record prices. So, for example, I think there was a PPK with one match mag, and they were somewhere north of $8,000. So the prices on the SS guns have gone way up. And by the way, this one is also an SS gun. Both of these are in the book. I'll show you that in a minute. This is original finish, so there's the nickel finish, and it was probably done by the GI. They like the nickel, their souvenirs, and it does hurt the value. This is original blued finish, and you can see the serial number is very similar. That first digit is a 9, but it kind of got corroded there a little bit. So it's 981250, and this is 981166, numbered on the slide and the frame. And now this one does not have a matching mag, but it does have a magazine that is very close in that same range. So we have an SS magazine that's close to being matching. This is all original finish. Now let me show you the book. Happens to be my book on SS contract guns, and it goes through all the different contracts, starts with PPKs, and then we get to the PPs. And this is actually a first variation. You can see that first contract. This is PP variation 1. Which it means it was the first contract, and you can see over here the nickel-plated one will highlight right here, and you can see it says re-nickeled finish with one matching mag. It's actually nickel finish, not re-nickeled. The other one right here at 250, 85% high polish. That's probably a little harsh. This is, I'd say a little, probably more like 90%. Unknown mag, well now we know. It has a non-matching SS mag in it. So you do find these in a book. And again, when you're buying SS guns, when you're buying expensive guns like I'm going to be showing you today, you want to make sure you do a little bit of research, or else you have to really know what you're doing. This next variation is all correct. I'll spoiler alert. This is a good gun. PDM is Police Department of Munich. These were ordered in 1934, 1935. Chief of police at that time in Munich was Himmler. And so theoretically, he actually ordered these guns, and it's a special order. He ordered these guns with an extended barrel. You can see on this PP, it doesn't have the extended barrel. For some reason, he liked the extended barrel. It does come in 7.65, but it has a bottom release magazine. Now, I don't like the bottom release. I find it a little bit awkward, but evidently he liked it, or the police department liked it better. To me, the push button has always been simpler, especially when you push it and it pops right out. To me, that just, it's like Lara Croft, Tomb Raiders. You got to be able to pop out those magazines. But this does have the bottom release, no push button. Also, you can see separation. Some people would call that a crack. Isn't it possible that came from the factory like that? Actually, it is possible it came from the factory like that, because there is a metal insert inside of this. And the metal insert puts just a strip of metal in here. And often the metal, due to weather changes, expands, contracts, it creates that separation there. So without taking these off, there's not one here, but I'm sure these are both correct early grips. And also, because it has no push button, you'll notice right here, there's no notch. So this is a rare magazine, it's correct. Here's the typical one. Push button will have that notch. This one has no notch. So this is a PDM magazine. And also, here's some more education for you. This police contract gun, the PDM, PPK, and PP, only contract that I know of that comes with a finger extension bottom. All the other police contracts came with a flat bottom. Now, this actually came with 2 finger extension bottoms. The rig would have a 1935 dated holster. I think it's Fubar is the maker. And it comes with a spare magazine that has a finger extension, and then the one in the gun has a finger extension. So this is a rare variation, very desirable PDM PP. Now, just like the nickeled gun, this one has a few issues. First and foremost, it has the party leader grips. Now, this is a repro grip. They are coming out of Europe, being made there. So you have to know what you're doing. Fortunately, this one has the person's initials. I'll actually show you. Let me just pull this grip off now, and if you look inside, you see a little oval. And the guy who made that, he has a little insignia that he puts on the reinforcing piece of sheet metal that's inside. So that's the best way to tell that this is reproduction. But going back to the gun, it's really hard to tell with the black ones, because the color is easier to match than the brown mottled look. But this black late war, this is a late war gun. It's all correct. Everything looks fine. It does have a box magazine, which I believe is post-war. But the magazine itself is wartime, late war. The bottom piece, I believe, is post-war. So we have post-war grips, post-war bottom here, but also we have 2 SS runes. Now, this is not an SS gun. It would be numbered here and here, but after 350,000, they were all numbered here and here. So that you can't take a look at without the matching mag. We can't say this is an SS gun, but isn't it possible that that's factory? No, it's not possible. The factory did not put the SS runes. It is possible that somebody else did during the war, or somebody else did, the GI put it on there, or some collector down the road put it there. What I tell people when they come over and say, isn't it possible that this is real? I'll just say, I'm sure it wasn't done in the factory. Where it happened, I can't tell you. So if you want to talk yourself into the German was sitting in a trench and he happened to have a little SS marker stamp with him, and so he popped that on there and then used it throughout the war. If you want to talk yourself into that, go right ahead, but I would not pay a premium for those SS ruins. But let's just say this is a good fantasy piece. This is a fantasy, this is a fantasy, this is probably a fantasy. So we have a late war PPK, which I think is very cool. I wouldn't mind owning it, but it's not real. It's a display piece, and just show everybody. It says, isn't this a beautiful PPK? Okay, moving right along, I've got 3 Lugers here. This first one, when I first saw it, I thought, oh, somebody really screwed this gun up. Now, I will say it does look refinished. It was an old refinish because this is already patinaed, but you can see how this has been buffed down a little bit. It's got rounded edges. This has rounded edges. It's not as crisp. If you look at this edge right here, you can see it's got like the edges are a little more crisp. This is definitely more rounded. That's more crisp. So we know that this has been buffed down a little bit, refinished, but I also can tell it was done a long time ago because this has a lot of brown patina on it. Number 6. And these markings, they make no sense to me. So at first I was like, well, because this is 1911, that was the first they started making the Erfurts. Maybe it's an early prototype, but I really can't say for sure. But then when I Google search, I found something interesting. By the way, that's an upside down A. There's also markings here and unusual markings here. So I'm thinking this is some kind of early prototype. And lo and behold, when I Google search, I found one almost identical on Rock Island. Here's the left side. You'll see that this one has no finish on it at all. And coincidentally, it's just the upside down 6 because this is number 9. It has the same A in the same places. If we take a look at the top view, it has the same A that we see here. Take a look here again. You can see it's even indented here. And going back to the one with no finish, you can see the same or similar markings. And they describe it, here's the other side, right side of the gun. You see an upside down A. And when you look at the right side of the Rock Island one, the A is right side up. Here it is upside down. So there's number 9 that's sold on Rock Island. And this one, while it's been buffed down and refinished, it is a correct gun, but probably never issued to the military. Well, it has no military proofs. But it's interesting in that I'm sure it was an early prototype for the Erfurt Luger. So before World War I and before they ramped up to make them for World War I German Army, this was an early prototype. Oh, by the way, it has no stock lug, and neither does the one from Rock Island. The early guns didn't use the stock lug because when it didn't go to the military, they really had no reason to put the stock lug on there because they weren't using them with stock. So this was a surprise for me. If somebody came over to me at a gun show and they say, now, isn't it possible this is a rare prototype? I'd say, yeah, don't talk yourself into it. But because we have number 9 marked the same way, I can say I'm sure this is a rare early prototype of an Erfurt Luger. All right, now I'm going to show you 2 Krieghoffs. Now both of these, you can see the Krieghoff toggle, and they both are P code, which I've always been told and read that that means private. So it was a private purchase. It did not go to the military. Here the P is right here because the serial number is a little longer. Here the P is right here, and I've seen it both ways. So I don't have any problem with the P. That seems fine. I do find that this eagle end proof seems a little crude to me under magnification. So that's my first raised eyebrow, like what's going on there. This looks fine. This is the crown end. So this is made before 1939 and would have the red grips. It's an early serial number, but I don't think it was made all that early. I think it was probably made, let's see, the earliest ones would have been 1935. So this is probably 1936 or 37. So I guess that's pretty early. Now I do have this serial number recorded in my book, and it says that it's inscribed. Somebody must have reported it to me, and I didn't actually look at it because it's clearly not inscribed here. Here's what the inscription looks like, and it does have the Krieghoff and the address. But I think what whoever reported this and said it was inscribed, they were probably talking about that. So it is inscribed with the location of the factory, which is Seoul, which is correct. Usually it's inscribed here. This one is inscribed here. I do believe this has been refinished. but not heavily buffed down. You can see how nice this looks. So this is a nice looking, pretty rare, actually very rare with the extended barrel. Normally it has a 4-inch barrel. This is a 6-inch barrel. Those are very rare. Often they come in 30 caliber. This one is in 9mm. So it is a 9mm extended barrel. The numbering is all matching. All of the parts are matching on this, and it's in really nice condition, but would sell at about half the price of an all-original gun, just because of it being refinished. Now, again, you can see here, the finish is inconsistent. You can see brown patina, and then a regular finish. In my opinion, that just was, they didn't prep the metal right. So they prepped the metal, maybe had a little, they needed to degrease it a little bit more, a little bit of grease on there. So then they finished it, they dipped it, it came out, looked fine, but then later on as they rubbed it off, it didn't adhere to the metal properly. So that spot right there, almost a two-tone finish. They didn't do a great job. That star is correct. That is a commercial star. This one, we're going to go to this one now, and I'm going to beat this one up a little bit. But this is a rare Krieghoff, been refinished, but you could pick it up for about half the price of what it normally would go for. Now, let's talk about this one, because this one, actually, I didn't spot it right away. And this is, remember in the intro I said, sometimes this is a little scary. I do this video and people say, I never would have figured it out, and I'll never buy a Luger, or I'll never buy a Krieghoff because it's too scary. Don't be scared. You can jump into the water. Just get help when you do. Okay, so these stamps look okay. This one doesn't look right, but these are commercial stamps. This is a commercial gun, although there's no star. So having no star is not the kiss of death, because they didn't, you know, sometimes they would skip that step. They clearly put the eagle and stamps on it. But something about the gun just didn't seem right to me. It does have the Black Widow grips on them. I'm not sure that those are real. They might be reproduction. They are shiny and they fit nicely. You see the same situation here, where if it was refinished, that's just an odd wear spot. It's just normally you definitely get wear here and here, but that's an odd wear spot. So I do think that was probably, again, the metal wasn't prepped correctly. But it took me a while to figure out, because I kept saying something is not quite right with this. This is actually a Mauser frame. And I'll show you how I can tell, and I'm going to use my trusty ice pick. Right here, if I get a close-up, right here, at the top of this cutout for the stock lug is a circular pattern. You can see it on both sides, but it actually is a little more pronounced here. So you definitely see like a circular pattern where they drilled in and then made that cut. With DWM frames, you don't see that circular pattern at the top. Now that's just a minor detail, and I'd like more verification, so I'll show you more. So there's no circular pattern here, whereas this circular pattern tells me that it's a Mauser frame. This is a real toggle, but this toggle probably cost about $1,500. A Krieghoff toggle, and it does have some Krieghoff parts. You put that on a Mauser frame, therefore that has to be renumbered. So it was renumbered, it's a Mauser frame. I'll show you one other tell for a Mauser frame. If we look at the front, Krieghoff and DWM, this little junction where the trigger guard meets the front strap, there's a teardrop right here. You can see it looks like a teardrop, and this looks like a half moon. This is Mauser, this is Krieghoff or DWM. Let's see, on the Erfurt, the teardrop is even more pronounced. So you will see them where, you know, it depends on when they do the milling, it will have that teardrop look. This has a little bit more DWM. You'll see them like this or like this, but basically it's a teardrop look versus Mauser has that half moon. If you have a Luger, you're going to run and go look at it and say, oh, if it's Mauser, you'll get that half moon. Now, is it possible that a Mauser-made gun will have a teardrop look? And the answer is yes, that is possible, because in writing the book on Lugers, I did find there were many times that Mauser went back to DWM and got unused frames. They shipped something like 6,000 unused frames from DWM over to Mauser. And from time to time, so certainly the early ones, the K dates, the G dates, you will see sometimes a DWM frame. It doesn't make it wrong, it just means they were using up some parts. Even in 1942, they were still pulling out some unused frames, and you see that like with the KU Luger end of war PX guns, they're still pulling out unused frames from DWM, and therefore every once in a while you'll see a Mauser with a teardrop look on that frame. I hope you understand what I'm saying there. I think you can see it from here to here. And if I showed you a dozen, I could show you a dozen times that they all have the same frame. All right, so I'm sure you ran to your safe and you pulled out a couple guns and you're checking them out, and I'm going to be flooded with emails with questions about it. But generally, just learn some of these things as you're out looking at guns, especially a high-end gun. These Krieghoffs sell for a lot of money. They can easily be $8,000 to $10,000. Here's another expensive gun. It doesn't look like it would be that expensive because it's got a bit of corrosion here, wear, but some of you collectors of the high power will recognize right away that we have an Eagle 613. So this is made in about 1940 and has the slot. That's what makes it expensive. This is a Belgian-made gun, made by the Belgians in the factory. 1940, the Germans came in, took over the factory. They talk about unused frames. They took unused frames or guns that they put together, all matching, and it went to the German military. Now, buying one of these are very rare, and it doubles, almost triples the price of the gun to have the slot, because the Germans, when they started production, they used up the unused stock. But as they went along, they eliminated that, and so you don't see that. It's not slotted for the stock on 99% of these Nazi-era FNs. But this one, 613, and slotted. If you're going to buy a gun like that, you certainly want to check with somebody, and I recommend Vander Linden's book on FN Brownings. He has one earlier variation that was just one book, and it does cover the known variations and also the known serial numbers of slotted FN Brownings. But this is a 2-volume set, but they are available online, and from time to time we also have them on our website. So in buying a high-end FN Browning, especially, can they fake this? Yep, unfortunately they can fake this. Again, this is milled out, and so it looks like they went in circular motion. You can even almost see the circular motions as they cut that in. And so for the amount of money that it adds, it can add thousands of dollars. Somebody can put that in there. So you want to make sure it's in the right range, it has the correct proof mark, and the milling on the slot is correct. Hey, that was fun for me. I hope you got some edumacation, and next time you go to buy, you'll know what to look for. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel because we're going to do this again.